Welcome. We're here today as leaders of the Senate and House Redistricting Committees to kick off what we hope and expect will be a very successful series of regional public hearings beginning next Friday. I'm Senator Suzanne Bonamici. I'm chair of the Senate Redistricting Committee, and I'm joined here today by the Vice Chair of the Senate Redistricting Committee, Senator Chris Telfer of Bend, and also the co-chairs of the House Redistricting Committee, Representative Sean Lindsay of Hillsborough and Representative Chris Garrett of Lake Oswego. On February 23rd, we received the official census data that we need to complete the legislative and congressional redistricting. The Oregon legislature has the responsibility for redrawing lines for both state, House, and Senate districts and for congressional districts. This is not a process, however, that takes place just inside the Capitol here in Salem. Over the next 5 weeks, we'll be traveling to 12 locations across our state to seek information from Oregonians that will help us draw new maps. Our first hearing will be on the North Coast in Tillamook at 11 a.m. next Friday, March 11th, and that will be at the Tillamook Bay Community College. These hearings are essential. They're a great part of the redistricting process. Input from Oregon's citizens is always important, but redistricting is something that we do every 10 years, so it's especially critical. Oregonians know best how they want to be and need to be represented. These hearings will be an opportunity for them to come and share their thoughts and concerns with the committees about how the committees will redraw the district lines. And at this time, I want to introduce Representative Sean Lindsay of Hillsborough and give the other committee leaders a chance to speak with you and tell you more about where we will be in the field hearings. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bonamici. My name is Representative Sean Lindsay from House District 30. As Senator Bonamici said, that we'll be holding 12 hearings across the state. The first, again, will be in Tillamook this coming March 12th at 11 a.m. And other hearings will follow in northeastern Oregon, eastern Oregon, central Oregon, southern Oregon on the south coast, Washington County, Multnomah County, East Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Lane County, Linn Benton counties, and right here in Salem. Staff has distributed the schedule, including the dates, times, etc., and more importantly, it's on the House and Senate Redistricting Committee websites is the direct schedule. Now, the legislature has a unique opportunity to pass a fair and bipartisan plan this year. With the current makeup of the House and Senate, I'm confident we can get a plan out without senseless partisanship and endless litigation that we've seen in the past. Everyone here, Republicans and Democrats, are standing together. We agree that we have an important responsibility to assure all Oregonians are equally represented and have a voice here in the legislature and also the United States House. However, we can't do it alone. To accomplish this fair and bipartisan plan, Oregonians need to be involved throughout the process. We need Oregonians to share their ideas and concerns about their future representation, again, here in Salem and in Washington, D.C. I absolutely look forward to joining my colleagues traveling across the state, from Portland to Burns, to give Oregonians meaningful opportunities to participate. Citizen feedback is critical. It's essential that we begin this hard work of redrawing district boundaries. With bipartisan and citizen input, I'm confident we can produce a plan that is fair for Oregon over the next 10 years. And here's Representative Chris Garrett, my respective co-chair.
Thank you, Sean. I'm Chris Garrett from Lake Oswego, representing House District 38 here in the Oregon Legislature. I want to say a little bit more about the importance of the hearings given the context of what redistricting law is all about and what our obligations are. Oregon statutes require that for legislative and congressional districts, we draw districts that are contiguous, that are of equal population, that utilize existing geographic and political boundaries, and that to the extent we can do so, don't divide communities of common interest and that are connected by transportation links. We've learned in our hearings so far, since we began this process about a month ago, that some of those criteria are fairly straightforward. We all know where city and county lines are. We can see rivers and mountain ranges on maps. But we've also learned that communities of interest is not a very well-defined term in the law, and in fact it can mean almost anything. And it certainly means different things in different parts of the state. In parts of Oregon, our communities may be based around agricultural interests. In other areas of the state, we'll see communities based around technology interests. We've heard testimony from different ethnic groups about the growth in their populations over the last 10 years. And there's no substitute for hearing from local communities to understand what Oregonians believe to be their own communities of interest. So I look forward to joining my colleagues in our hearings around the state over the next several weeks, and then doing the work of developing new plans in a process that's fair, open, and transparent. And I'd like to finally introduce my colleague, Senator Chris Telfer, who will say a few more words.
Thank you. As Senator Bonamici said, the legislature received the census data on February 23rd. Oregon's population grew by more than 409,000 people between 2000 and 2010. The census data also shows us that not all areas of the state grew at the same rate. The district I currently represent, Central Oregon, was one of the fastest growing areas of the state. Other districts did not grow as fast. That means that some districts will need to shrink, while others will need to add population in the redistricting process. We know Oregon is more than a bunch of lines on a map. Oregon is comprised of people in communities, and all communities are different. And so I'm actually looking forward to going out and hearing from people, Oregonians all over the state, to find out what joins them in communities of interest. What is their community about? So that we can truly draw lines so that they can have good representation. At this point, we are happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have what might be a technical question, but since I understand that the committees have to work from census tract data, and if that's so, is that available to the public now, or how will that be made available to the public for your committee?
We have the census data. It will be available to the public. Looking over there to see if I can get a head nod. Yes. It is available to the public. It was released on February 23rd.
So do we have an idea of exactly which districts, as Senator Telfer just referred to, need to expand our boundaries?
Yes.
And is that available?
Yes, it is. It is available. The redistricting website does not yet have any maps that show that, but the data is there, and we know which districts, both at the House, Senate, and congressional level, need to gain and by how many, and which need to lose and by how many.
So will there be, or when will there be a first opportunity to look at sort of a proposed map? Are people going to be able to do that at these hearings already, or when can we expect to see that?
We don't have maps that show a proposal, because we think it's important to hear from communities about where they think we should make the changes. And so what we will go with when we go out to the field hearings is a map that shows the population growth and the population changes around the state. And so the residents of the communities will be able to look at the map and tell us where we should make the changes. What is their input on what makes sense? They will know if the district that they live in needs to gain population or lose population, and that's where we'll get the input from them about what makes sense, where are the communities, and then later on we will have maps. We don't have a date for when we will have a plan yet, but we think it's important to get the input first before we draw the lines.
You know, I might also add that the software, the mapping software, will be available to people of Oregon, and they will be able to come into the Capitol and utilize the terminals and play around with their own ideas of maps. And so we also want to be able to accept all those ideas as we move forward on the one main map for the state.
Representative Lindsay alluded to this, but I want to see if there are any other comments. There's a high degree of skepticism based on history, and I've been here for 3 previous redistricting cycles, and I hope this one's going to be my last one. As to whether the legislature can actually do this by the deadline, constitutional deadline, June 30th.
Sure. So I might answer that. All four of us just got done meeting with the governor. And he gave us the history. This is his fourth, I believe it was what he said. And each decade, it's been lopsided by party control. There was one decade, as Republicans had a pretty good lopside and Democrats had a lopside, and we've been able to control each other by the collar. This year, it's completely different. 30-30 House. I don't think anything's coming out with a bipartisan plan out of there. So I'm incredibly optimistic. I'm not going to hide the fact that this is a hard job and that this is going to be difficult to thread the needle. But I'm highly confident, especially working with this good team here. We've looked each other in the eye and told each other that we want to have something fair and bipartisan, and I trust them, and I'm looking forward to getting it out. And as I said, we just got done meeting with the governor, and he told us the same thing. We're all very, very optimistic.
I noticed a lot of these hearings are scheduled for 3 hours long. I mean, do you think there's that much pent-up opinion about redistricting out there?
We wanted to give ample opportunity for people to come in and testify. Obviously, if people don't show up or don't call in, we will have video conferencing available to other locations in the area. Obviously, we won't stay the whole 3 hours, but we didn't want to have shorter hearings because we want to give people the opportunity. It's our understanding that prior hearings have been a little shorter than that in other redistricting cycles, and that people left without being able to testify. We wanted to give as many people as possible the opportunity to give their input.
And based on the number of people who have already come forward in our Salem hearings to provide testimony, I have a high degree of confidence that we're going to see greater interest at these hearings, both by video conference and in person, than we maybe have seen 10 years ago.
It sounds like a specific date by which you hope to have a plan, but do you have a ballpark?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
the road hearings, and at the end of April, we will still be having hearings in the building and getting input from the communities, but we don't have a date for a map yet. It will depend on how we're getting, how much information we're getting, how we're working together. So we don't have a date, but we do know that we need to have a plan by the end of session.
And we hope to have a plan out in time so that we can receive testimony on those plans as well. I think that'll be the bulk of our work is for the month of May. We'll be having those plans out, hopefully, and receiving input on those plans, specific input.
Are there any specific steps you're taking to try to help you reach an agreement within the time frame, or is it just kind of standard what everyone has done in the past? Any kind of specific negotiating?
No, we are meeting on a regular basis and trying to work together each step of the way, and I just think that the communication is great, and I hope we continue that so that we're kind of on the same page all along, both the Senate and the House, and the members of both the Senate and the House amongst themselves. So I'm hoping we're all going to be working together on this every step of the way so that we're going to be constantly on the same page.
And we'll be working with the governor's office as well. Just today, we discussed the idea of meeting with his office frequently to make sure that we're on the same track.
So we won't have any walkouts like as occurred 10 years ago?
We certainly hope not.
Hope not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.